At 3 in the morning, the sky above Kharkiv splits open with the sound of sirens, and somewhere in that darkness, a machine no bigger than a hawk is already climbing to meet the threat. What you are about to hear is not speculation. It is not a think piece. It is a documented, verified, game-changing shift in how this war is being fought and who is now fighting it. A Japanese company just made history, and the weapon they are bankrolling costs less than a used car. My name is David. This is Global Conflict Feed, and today we are breaking down the drone alliance that is quietly rewriting the rules of modern warfare, one $2,000 interceptor at a time. Let us start with the moment everything changed. March 31st, 2026, a press conference in Kyiv. On the stage stood two men from two countries who had never shared a battlefield until now. Tao Tokushige, founder and CEO of Tarara Drone Corporation, a firm listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Beside him, Maxim Klimenko, CEO of Amazing Drones, a Kharkiv-based defense startup that grew from a handful of volunteers hand-building FPV drones for soldiers on the front line 3 years ago. Two men, two nations, one mission: kill the Shaheeds before they kill the city. Tokushige said it plainly at that press conference. Russia launches drone and missile attacks 3 or 4 times a day, even through the night. For years, Ukraine has been forced to knock down $30,000 Shaheeds with missiles costing $1 to $2 million per shot. The math has always favored Moscow. Now, that math is being demolished, because the Terra A1 interceptor drone costs between $2,000 and $3,000. Think about what that means. $1,000 versus $1 million. The asymmetry has flipped. But how did a Japanese tech executive end up in a war zone making this happen? Here is the backstory, and it tells you everything about what is at stake. Tokushige first traveled to Ukraine in September 2025. He did it against the explicit travel warnings issued by his own government in Tokyo. He was not sightseeing. Over the months that followed, he visited more than 100 Ukrainian defense technology companies. He used personal contacts, professional networks, even LinkedIn, of all things, to find his way in. He was not hunting for the most advanced weapon on paper. He was hunting for the most practical answer to what he recognized as a global problem. Because here is what Tokushige understood that most Western defense ministries were still struggling to articulate. The cost gap between a cheap attack drone and an expensive interceptor missile is not Ukraine's problem alone. It is every nation's problem. Any country that might one day face an adversary capable of flooding its skies with swarms of low-cost drones is staring at the same strategic trap. And for Japan, that trap is not abstract. It is geography. Japan is an island chain. Russia sits to its north. North Korea lies to its west. China is increasingly assertive across the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. Tokyo's defense budget for fiscal year 2026 is the largest in the country's post-war history, approximately 9 trillion yen, equivalent to roughly $58 billion. And yet Japan's military planners, like everyone else, kept circling the same uncomfortable question. What do you do when your enemy sends 1,000 drones that cost almost nothing and your best response burns $1 million per shot? Amazing Drones had an answer. The company started from almost nothing, a volunteer team assembling 10 FPV drones for friends on the front line. 3 years later, it had become a professional engineering organization, building one of the most field-tested interceptor platforms in the world. Their system before the Tarara partnership was called Skyrider, a high-speed drone hunter built to pursue and destroy Shaheeds mid-flight. Tokushige saw it at a defense exhibition and, according to Klimenko, was the only person from Asia in the entire room. Now let us get into the weapon itself. The Terra A1 is genuinely remarkable. Verified technical specifications confirm the following. Top speed, 300 kilometers per hour. The Shahed 136, Russia's workhorse kamikaze drone, travels at approximately 185 to 200 kilometers per hour. The Terra A1 does not just chase it, it outruns it by a decisive margin. Operational range, up to 35 kilometers. Flight endurance, approximately 15 minutes, long enough to complete a full detection to interception cycle on a single charge. The propulsion system is fully electric, which means it generates almost no heat signature and produces minimal noise in flight. Thermal detection, one of the primary methods used to locate and track drones, is nearly useless against it. Combat payload, up to 1 kilogram, enough to destroy a target on impact. And the price, $2,000 to $3,000 per unit, including the ground control station. Compare that to a Patriot interceptor missile, $2 to $4 million per shot. The cost ratio is somewhere between 600 to 1 and 1,000 to 1. That is not an advantage. That is a revolution. Russia's entire attrition strategy rests on a single premise: exhaust Ukraine's expensive missile stockpiles faster than they can be replenished. The Terra A1 is designed to make that strategy obsolete. To understand the scale of what that means, consider this. Russian forces launched more than 6,000 kamikaze drones in March 2026 alone. On a single day, March 24th, 948 drones were launched in one coordinated saturation attack. The goal was to overwhelm Ukraine's air defense infrastructure entirely. Shooting down each of those drones with a Patriot missile would cost billions of dollars in a single month. Shooting them down with Terra A1 interceptors at $3,000 a unit? The same outcome costs a few million. The savings are staggering. The strategic implication is even larger. Expensive interceptors, Patriot, NASAMS, IRIS-T, can be preserved for genuinely high-value threats: ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, advanced aircraft. The Terra A1 handles the swarms, and the more drones Russia launches, the more the financial equation compounds against Moscow. Now, here is where the story shifts from military analysis into geopolitical earthquake territory. Terrara Drones' investment in Amazing Drones is estimated at approximately $10 million. That capital is being deployed immediately: new engineers, production testing, and frontline delivery of drones for field validation. The initial production target is 1,000 Terra A1 units, all going directly to Ukrainian armed forces. Currently, a single technician can assemble approximately 2 interceptors per day. Scaling that rate is a central pillar of the partnership. But scale is exactly what Terrara Drone brings. This is not a startup. It is a Tokyo Stock Exchange-listed company with operations across more than a dozen countries and deep experience in supply chain management, quality control, and global expansion. The company has already announced plans to extend beyond interceptors into FPV platforms, reconnaissance drones, and unmanned surface vessels. It is also in active discussions with Japan's own defense ministry about deploying this technology domestically. Let that land for a moment. Japan is using Ukraine's battlefield as its proving ground, and it is paying to do so. One of the most striking details of this entire story is where the Terra A1 is going to be manufactured. Not in Tokyo, not in some sheltered industrial zone in western Ukraine, in Kharkiv, a city that has been under near constant Russian bombardment since February 2022. A city close enough to the Russian border that it has been hit by artillery, missiles, and drone swarms on a near daily basis for more than 3 years. Is that insane? Ukrainian engineers say the opposite is true. A large centralized factory anywhere in Ukraine immediately becomes a priority target for Russian cruise missiles. The solution, refined through years of brutal necessity, is dispersion: small workshops, underground facilities, distributed assembly lines across multiple locations. Hit one, and the others continue producing. And that philosophy extends to the drones themselves. As Klemenko told reporters, the key is not the number of operators. It is the intelligence built into the drone, its ability to operate without requiring a dedicated human controller for every single mission. Which brings us to the most consequential ambition in this entire partnership: full autonomy. Both companies have identified the transition to fully autonomous interception as their primary development objective. The goal? Automatic launch, independent target acquisition, and self-directed engagement. No human in the loop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Think about what that means against Russia's current tactics. Moscow launches waves of Shaheds from multiple directions throughout the night. Assigning a human operator to track and intercept every single one is logistically impossible at any meaningful scale. A network of autonomous interceptors guided by AI target detection can operate continuously, processing multiple threats simultaneously, without fatigue, without fear, without the cognitive ceiling of a human controller. This is not science fiction. The architecture is already being tested in active combat, and the partnership extends well beyond Kharkiv and Tokyo. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made Ukraine's strategic offer to Japan explicit in an interview with Kyodo News in February 2026. Ukraine is ready to share its battle-tested naval drone and interceptor technologies. In exchange, Kyiv has requested air defense systems and ballistic missile defense technology. The naval component of that offer is particularly significant. Ukraine, without a conventional surface fleet, used naval drones to pressure a substantial portion of Russia's Black Sea fleet away from Ukrainian coastal waters. For Japan, an island nation encircled by potential adversaries with growing maritime capability, that technology is not merely interesting. It is existential. Tokyo is responding. In March 2026, both governments began preparing a formal intergovernmental agreement to facilitate defense equipment and technology transfers. Japan is also reportedly considering direct purchase of Ukrainian-made attack drones for its self-defense forces, a historic step for a country that has historically maintained some of the strictest arms export restrictions in the world. Now let us step back and look at the full picture. Ukraine's air defense architecture today operates in distinct layers. At the highest altitudes, Patriot and NASAMS, defending against ballistic missiles, long-range cruise missiles, advanced aircraft. At medium altitude, Germany's Iris-T, handling cruise missiles and aircraft below the Patriot's optimal engagement envelope. At low altitude, rapid reaction systems and, now, interceptor drones like the Terra A1, targeting the Shahed swarms that constitute the overwhelming bulk of Russia's daily attack volume. Every altitude, every threat category, every vector of attack. A defense system now exists specifically designed to meet it. And the deeper consequence of this architecture is the collapse of Moscow's central strategic assumption that sustained drone saturation would eventually exhaust Ukraine's air defense capacity, clearing the skies for a major ground offensive. That assumption is failing in real time. Russia can turn further toward China and North Korea for components and ammunition. Almost certainly it will. But China has its own reasons for carefully managing the depth of its support, not least the threat of Western secondary sanctions on Chinese financial institutions. And North Korea's production capacity, while significant, cannot compensate for the industrial weight now massing against Moscow. Here is the bottom line. We are watching a fundamental transformation in the economics of modern warfare. The era of expensive, complex weapons as the only decisive tools is being profoundly challenged. A Patriot battery remains indispensable against hypersonic missiles, but a swarm of $30,000 Shaheds does not require a Patriot. It requires a Terra A1. And the side that builds those interceptors faster, cheaper, and smarter will determine the outcome of the 21st century's first major drone war. Japan arrived at this conclusion because it faces the same threat on a different ocean. Ukraine arrived at it because survival left no other option. And together, they are now building the answer in a city under fire, because that is the only place where the answer can be truly tested. If this kind of serious, sourced geopolitical analysis is what you are here for, you already know what to do. Hit that like button right now. And if you are not already subscribed to Global Conflict Feed, that button is right there. We do not do shallow coverage. Every video we publish is built from verified data, primary sources, and real context. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Does this Japan-Ukraine drone alliance have the power to derail Russia's 2026 offensive plans? And what does it mean for Indo-Pacific security if Japanese defense technology matures through a Ukrainian battlefield? That is the conversation we want to have with you. This is Global Conflict Feed. Stay sharp.